Welcome in, Jake West, Director of Team F1 Sports, joined by Caleb Tallman. Caleb, we say this every week, but definitely this week, a crazy night in the Smoky Mountain Conference and in all of Western North Carolina. I think the only game that wasn't a surprise was the game that you were at. But I mean, start with that game. Tell us what happened in that game, and then we'll go down through the list.
Well, first off, I just wanted to say this, Jake. I mean, me and you talked a couple times throughout the game, and Brandon will back me up on this one. First off, Murphy had the better football team tonight. They outplayed Hayesville. They deserve to win this football game. Just one thing I'm really getting sick and tired of, Jake, because you got kids on Murphy that you love, same at Robbinsville too. I've got kids on Hayesville that I love. I'm tired of the refs putting these kids in harm's way. I think that was the big outcome of this game. Was it's a miracle that there wasn't a season-ending injury tonight for a Murphy or Hayesville player, because the refs let this thing get out of control. And it's not the kids' fault. The adults out on the field are the referees. And you know what? If you let kids hit late, they're going to start hitting later, and they're going to start hitting later. I didn't see a dirty play out there tonight. Did you, Brandon? Other than the fact that the refs allowed for bad things to happen, and there was probably, 40 flags in the game?
You know, the majority of the flags came right there in the beginning, and there were 3 holding penalties against Hayesville, one that was declined. Eventually, we started seeing personal fouls and sportsmanlike conduct, but in that, refs were really on top of this game. I mean, as far as getting into their calls.
Yeah, it's like what bothers me though is we're willing to call 15 holding calls and all the pass interference in the world, but when Hazel late hits a Murphy Bulldog, we're not going to call it. Then when Murphy late hits one of our kids on their sideline, 3 yards out of bounds, we're not going to call. And it goes both ways. At the end of the day, the number one job of referee, as a former NCHSA official myself, it says in our referee's creed, the number one job is player safety. And I just think it's a blessing tonight that Hayesville and Murphy left this game. Both teams got their bumps and bruises, but thankfully no one was majorly hurt. But I tell you what, let's move on to the game. Murphy's got a good football team. Murphy's got a really good football team. They're slowly but surely figuring things out. It's changing week to week, but right now Murphy's 2-0 atop the conference after tonight, and they stand alone in first place. Granted, Swain is undefeated as well, but they have one less game. So Murphy might be going back to where we thought at the beginning of the season, Jake, as the team to beat. They're starting to figure some things out.
Yeah, Brandon, you followed Murphy all year. What looked different tonight in the route of Hayesville than maybe last week or even 2 weeks ago? They end up with a big win against Union County 2 weeks ago, but it took them a half to figure things out. It seems like they were clicking from go tonight.
I found one thing that was a little bit similar than what we saw in the Union County game that you and I broadcast a couple of weeks ago, is a little bit of a slow start for Murphy. We took us down to almost like the 5-minute mark to score, trying to find our footing there. But really what happened the second quarter, when we had Jawan Allen, who just basically lit up the scoreboard. The line did a great job blocking, kept Kellen safe back there. They launched a 42-yard pass. It was Jawan Allen. He set the fire to the Yellow Jacket nest this evening, and made it happen. The Murphy Bulldogs didn't look back afterwards. The third quarter, I'd have to credit into Hunter Stalkup. Man, he carried the ball. He did really well. Once again, line was really charged up. This was something too different that we've also been wanting to see Murphy jump into, is getting its defense set, and they put a lot of pressure down on Logan Caldwell. Now that's different really than what we've seen. They were actually able to get back and really denied Hayesville all evening until the last quarter. And basically we had second, third stringers. We had freshmen playing this evening, and Caldwell got in on a 2-yard carry. So once again, pressure from the defense and good execution. I think once again, as I was telling you, I wanted to see more Jawan Allen.
Yeah. Was the defensive scheme different? Was there different players out there, or was it just seemed like they were all on the same page tonight, unlike
Well, we didn't see, in the last little while, we've started seeing Kellen Rumfelt go in cornerback and a few things like that. So really, no, we just basically honed things in, and to me, it was just well executed. They were playing their assignments. They were watching. They knew when to shift from man to zone, and I thought it was good. It was just the way that you wanted it to go, and this is a good exercise for them to deny. Well, obviously the defense did really well. They denied Hazel only down to 7 points, and then 7 points right at the very end of the football game. So defense was key.
I'll tell you what, one guy that I noticed from a visitor's perspective that played really well, and tell me if I got this number right, Brandon, number 55, Joe Swain.
Yeah.
Is that correct? He had a good night. I mean, they sent him on some blitzes, and I tell you what, he was a sure tackler at an outside linebacker spot. And I know linebacker's been a bit of a rotational switch for Murphy this year, where they're rotating different guys in and out. And I know Chandler Wood didn't play tonight, but they may have found one of the answers in Joe Swain. He tackled really well tonight.
One other thing I'll drop in here, big people. We saw Ryland Smith come back. He's been out. So we didn't see him at Cherokee, and that was a big presence. Then also you start seeing other people who haven't been out for a long time, because Ricky Queen, I mean, it'd take all three of us to tear his picture in half. He's that big. He got out on the field, got to get some action, but the big guys in the trenches, Kyle Willard, it was really a good night for the big boys this evening. You really have to give them props for that. Otherwise, you don't have 50-plus points, and you don't deny your opponent only 14 points. So I have to say that those guys, their presence back really made a difference.
But yeah, Jake, tell us a little bit. I mean, obviously this game doesn't need too much more talk, because it was a pretty big blowout. And we'll quickly mention, last I saw, Franklin was leading North Henderson 27-0 late in the fourth quarter. But two upsets tonight. I don't want to call them huge upsets, because we know the parity we have in our conference. But I know you were watching on some live streams, Jake, Robbinsville and Cherokee and Andrew Swain. Tell the fans what happened over there.
Yeah, well, talking about the Franklin North Henderson game, Franklin won that game 40-14, pulled away big time there at the end. But as far as the Andrews game is concerned, Andrews' offense, we thought that given that it was going to be a muddy night, rainy night, and it was going to be a ball game that was played all on the ground, Andrews' offense couldn't really get much going. Only 206 yards of total offense for Andrews, I think, is what I ended up tallying up. So that's not going to win you ball games when you're a run-first team. And then also we've talked about it a lot with Andrews, is they need consistent quarterback play, and they were 2 of 13 through the air tonight. So when you're getting stopped on the ground and you can't put the ball in the air to kind of get the defense on their heels, then, I mean, Swain was able to come up and put their nose on the football pretty much the entire game, and they pulled away quickly. Andrews made a late charge there at the end, ended up making it 21-12. But as far the biggest takeaway from this, I mean, Andrews is going to bounce back. And Swain obviously is a good team. Biggest takeaway for me is if Andrews wants to develop into a very late playoff team, they've got to figure out how to put those extra points on the board. I mean, losing one, they had the ball at the end of the game down 21-12 with about 2 minutes left. But even then, like that's a 2-score ball game. But if they would have just been able to get those extra points, then all they would have had to done was get down the field and get in the end zone to tie it up. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me. I mean, Andrews, the conditions weren't great. It was homecoming for Swain. Nobody wants to go play in Bryson City. I mean, Andrews is going to get back on track. Andrews is going to be fine. And not taking anything away from Swain, but my biggest thing was for Andrews, I mean, those extra points are going to come down. They're going to be critical. I mean, Brandon, we saw extra points critical last week in the Cherokee Murphy game.
Well, that's what we were saying in the pregame show, knowing that you've got to have your special teams clicking. I mean, you may say, oh, it's only just 1 point or 3 points, but that difference there can change tempo, and it's critical.
Yeah, it is. And keeping with the theme of special teams, Robbinsville, Don Bradley throws a nice touchdown pass, and Cherokee goes up 14-7. On the ensuing kickoff, Robbinsville fumbles that in the end zone. Cherokee recovers. They go up 20-7, and that pretty much ends the ball game.
Well, the big takeaway in that football game, and I had people tracking over there for that. It seemed like it was just taking care of the ball for Robbinsville this evening. You can't have the interception that Gross throws and it turns into points. You can't have the fumbles. You can't have those things. Those things happen, and then right down at the very end, Cherokee basically just burns up the clock. they do clock management and get out 20-7.
Well, and you and I talked about it, Jake, during our show this week. I predicted Robbinsville to win, but I offered a caveat. I said, if Robbinsville can't find a way to take care of the ball like they hadn't in recent weeks, you're not going to beat other teams when you're having timely turnovers. It's killing Robbinsville right now. I mean, giving up a fumble for a touchdown, that's massive. If you're going to be a good football team, you can't let those things happen. And until Robbinsville gets those things figured out, they're going to continue to struggle. I mean, right now they're coming here next week. Murphy showed the ability to take care of the football with their starters in the game. Now, they did have a late turnover with all backups for both teams in the game, but Murphy's took care of the football tonight. If Robbinsville comes over here next week and turns over the football 3 times to Murphy's 1, Murphy's going to beat them by 3 scores. That's just simple facts.
Yeah, the biggest thing for Robbinsville is their starting star running back, best player on that football team, Cutler Adams. He kind of came into the game first quarter, played a little bit, more of a smokescreen than anything. So, I mean, the kid's not healthy. You could tell when he was out there that he wasn't healthy. He's got a back injury. So that's also going to play a big part in next week's game. I think this Cherokee game would have went differently if Cutler would have been out there, obviously. But you're right, Robbinsville's got to, I mean, ball security is job security, and you've got to take care of the football to be able to win football games. Also, a big surprise out of Robbinsville, they moved the ball very well through the air. So that's one good takeaway if you want a moral victory on a loss, which I know the fans and coaches over there in Robbinsville are not used to moral victories, but that's something to build off of. Is the fact that you did move the ball well through the air. Dason and Brock Adams had a good connection, but like you said, an interception by Gross that turns into points. I mean, you've just got to learn to take care of the football, and they were really missing Cutler Adams tonight. Cage was rolling on the ground, but they need we haven't seen, except for that first game, a good yin and yang of power and speed. Obviously, we couldn't tonight because of the injury to Adams. But I think Robbinsville can get back in the swing of things if Adams is healthy. If not, then it's a long road ahead for Robbinsville if they can't get Cutler Adams back on the field. And the kids had a load already. I hope they take care of him and don't push him out there too early.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's more important to get him back for the long haul than for the short term. As much as you want to come and beat Murphy next week, you need him. He's just a sophomore. He's got two more years of eligibility after this. You got to take care of a young athlete. But as we wrap this up, how we all give just one takeaway from the night, the conference as a whole is, for me, I think as a whole, conference is still up for grabs. I think Murphy has put themselves in the driver's seat, but Swain's done nothing to dissuade themselves. And then, you look at Cherokee. Cherokee, while they have a 1-point loss to Murphy, if Murphy picks up a loss, we could see Cherokee find a way. I mean, but right now, I think going into week 3 of conference play, you have 5 of your 6 conference teams that are still in contention, and I'd say realistically have a chance at the conference title still. So this is the most exciting season of Smoky Mountain football in a long time as far as the parity goes.
Yeah, we've got really good football games next week all around the conference. As I think is Cherokee and Andrews next week.
Cherokee, Andrews, Robbinsville, Swain, or Robbinsville, Murphy, and Swain, Hayesville.
So yeah, that could shake up a lot of things too. I mean, Robbinsville comes to Murphy and gets the win; they're right back in it. And then say Swain drops one to Hayesville, who knows what could happen? But I'd say the game of the week is Andrews. Well, the game of the week obviously is Murphy and Robbinsville. But you can't. A lot of eyes are going to be on that Andrews Cherokee game from Murphy fans and Robbinsville fans alike. 2 big, huge games, and it's like that every week when you get in the Smoky Mountain Conference. That Cherokee and Andrews game will be live on fyntv.com, as well as the Hayesville Swain game will be live. I believe, right, Caleb?
Correct. Yeah, we're gonna be double barreled next week. So make sure. Stay tuned to all the coverage. I mean, we've got a lot going on here at Team FYN Sports. Well, we're really excited and blessed to have the opportunity to bring 2 conference games next week. And thankfully, we'll have Brandon here in Murphy while we're not live We'll be bringing Brandon on to one, if not both, of our games at halftime and pregame and postgame, because we got 3 awesome games next week. Right now, there's no better place to be if you're a football fan in the Smoky Mountain Conference.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe, who knows, maybe we can talk Murphy into letting us live stream that Murphy-Robbinsville game next week at Bob Hendricks Memorial Stadium. Brandon, Caleb, thanks. Appreciate you guys. Great night of football. Let's regroup, and we'll get some stories out and stuff tomorrow, so stay with us.
Yep. Thanks, Jake.
It goes.